try board reports, Beverly. Is it?
That's the budget.
2016 budget.
DB board report.
Hey, Pete.
Hey. Hold on.
Sorry, I've got, my cousin died.
Oh, I saw that in the paper.
Yeah. Cousin Charlie Mastapoulos, and the day before that, Joe Page, my best friend, passed away. So I've been helping some with the funeral arrangements. So I've got 2 funerals going the same day, and the visitation same day.
Well, we're sorry to hear that.
Tough to
What's,
lose your best friend.
No.
So it's 5 after, so I think we'll go ahead and start. We're missing Wayne and Chatham. So there's a couple of important things on the agenda that we might bounce around a little bit and come back to those sections right here. But everybody, Happy New Year. We're starting a new
Did we have a
fiscal
party
year.
last night with fireworks?
We should have. We closed out last year. We're closing it out. This is a new year. We also want to welcome Chester Ellis, Commissioner Ellis, who was replaced either Helen or James. I'm not sure who. So good to have you and welcome aboard. We also have Tabitha Odell, who here is on her way, so we'll send her soon. And as I pointed out, we have a very short book today, and so I want everybody to appreciate the shortness of this meeting. Except we have Transpo here, and I think that's going to lead to a long discussion. And we want to take all of our time that we feel like we need to talk to Mark and understand what he's going to tell us. So Beverly, with that in mind, would you be willing to call roll call?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Chairman French.
Here.
Mr. Ellis.
Here.
Mr. Broker.
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dorrance.
Here.
Mr. Lakakis.
Yeah.
Ms. Odell. Mr. Madoff.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to skip the election of officers until we have our remaining 2 members come. So let's jump to the approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion approved. Now I think we're going to jump to action items. Well, under presentations. For me, this is an action item.
You need a vote.
We need a vote. I'm in a hurry today.
We had a motion and a second.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. We need a
Gotta
vote
carry
to
the
approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This is a team board. Somebody's got to keep this straight. Okay, so the first presentation we have is one that very positive. We get to welcome James A. Brown Jr. into retirement, who was a long-time employee of CAT, 42 years. And I was talking to him before the meeting, and I said, I bet he could tell us some stories. But he promised he would not do that. So we have a proclamation we would like to read for James to thank him for all of his service. And in the proclamation, the agenda, it calls for me to read the proclamation. But since you're such a long-time employee, I would like to have another individual on the board who has served the community for years and years and years and was a long-time chairman of CAT read this proclamation. So I would like to ask Pete if you would do us the honors.
I'm honored to do this because James, I've known him for the things that he has done, and he is like a goodwill ambassador for CAT, and you've had over the years many of our bus riders and all and others in other departments speak out for you, James, so that's really good. Sorry to see you leave, but of course, being here as long as you have, and I know that you want to be with your family and to have those good years in the future to spend with your family and all, but I know it's going to be a number of people, especially in different departments, are really going to miss you because of the things that you have done. So I'd like to read this. Since I was chairman of the Chatham County Commission, I remember that some 8 years before that, and then after that being here on the CAT board. So you have a family member here with you too?
Yes, my wife.
Well, Ms. Brown, glad to have you here also. I know you're really proud of your husband for the things that he has done, more than just helping CAT, but in other things in the community. Chatham Area Transit Authority Board proclamation in recognition of James A. Brown, Jr. Whereas it is befitting that we recognize employees who have provided loyal and exemplary service to Chatham County and the surrounding area, and in that regard, we salute with great pride Mr. James A. Brown, Jr., also known as J.A. Brown. And whereas James A. Brown faithfully served for 42 years as a professional bus operator with the initial Savannah Transit Authority, now known as Chatham Area Transit Authority, CAT, and whereas Mr. Brown began his employment April the 18th, 1975, and retired June the 30th, 2017. During his tenure, he not only met all the qualifications for his position, but he excelled in every one. Mr. Brown firmly stood for safety and customer service. This was evidenced by the superb bus operation in a timely and safe manner, and with courtesy and respect for his passengers, as well as the induction into the CAT Safety Board for his driving a record, and whereas Mr. Brown represented CAT in a professional manner, and his appearance and attendance with both above reproach. He has never been involved in a customer dispute and never cited for any disciplinary infraction. He was regularly recognized for going above and beyond the call of duty by his passengers and respected beyond measure by his superiors. He served as a role model and mentor to his fellow bus operators, and they acknowledged him with great pride and respect by standing and saluting him as he drove his final run. Be it resolved that the CAT family thanks Mr. Brown for being a true gentleman while serving this community with honor and distinction. J.A. Brown will be greatly missed by the management team, his co-workers, and his passengers. Now, therefore, I on behalf of Howard French, Chairman, on behalf of the Chatham Area Transit Authority Board and the CAT family, we do hereby extend our most sincere appreciation to Mr. Brown for his loyal and dedicated service. We wish him the best and trust that he will enjoy the fruits of his labor during his well-deserved retirement. In witness, therefore, it has been set upon the chairman's hand and caused the seal of the Chatham Area Transit Authority, Chatham County, Georgia, to be affixed this 18th day of July 2017. And Howard French, as I mentioned, our chairman, Curtis Culver, the CEO, and our executive director also signed this for the Chatham Area Transit Authority. And this was attested by Beverly Dumas, our secretary treasurer. But again, I want to present this proclamation to you. If you and your wife will just stand up there, James, and I'll come around. And I pray that God will bless you and your family for many good years in the future. And we thank you again for the wonderful things that you have helped us with.
Thank you so very much, Peter.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Let me turn around here and turn that towards the camera so they can put it in our records. Turn it this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
So, James, it's customary to say a few words at this momentous decision.
Well, I just want you to know I'm long-winded, and my wife would tell you, she's telling me now, make it short. But I want to thank Peter. I thank you so very kindly for reading this proclamation. I thank the board members and all the CAT constituents. I thank you so very much, especially my union president and vice president. It has been a beautiful journey. I couldn't have been the person that you read this proclamation to without each and every one of you. No man is an island. The people has made my journey worth living. But most important, my wife, my right hand. I thank God for her because she helps steer me in the right direction sometimes when I get off key. So I thank and praise God for her. I'm so grateful for being able to work with Chatham Area Transit and Savannah Transit for 42 years. It's a blessing. It's a God-given blessing to me because this company have done so much for myself and my family and this community over the years. And when you're able to witness the change, it has been a wonderful change. And I thank all of you because you are making it possible for the change to take place in Savannah. So thank you so very much. Appreciate you, and God bless you in your endeavor.
Mr. Brown, I believe you and I may be the only two people in this room that go all the way back to the days of George Brown and J.Q. Lindsay. And
Yes.
Don't ever leave Fred out. Don't ever leave Fred out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Stand up to you off the TV.
I stand corrected. Sorry, Fred.
Sorry, Fred.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Come see us.
Don't be a stranger, Mr. Brown.
Oh, ready, I won't.
I'll be back for breakfast.
So how many other people do we have with this kind of seniority on our staff?
Fred has 42 years.
Just one?
I got more than one.
Blake?
There's some.
Richard
better
Richardson.
there. Yeah, I got more.
Oh, there's about 10 or 15.
Yeah.
We have the county department.
It's amazing.
That is amazing and very good. Glad to have you all with us. Don't leave. You can't retire yet.
You're right.
Okay, I think we can get back on the agenda now that we have everybody present. And first of all, we have to introduce Commissioner Odell
Hi.
to the board, our newest member.
Sorry, y'all, I didn't know where to park.
Well,
I was trying to figure
that
out where
won't
to park.
change.
There's a key to
I was trying to figure out where to park.
If
So
you-
I parked someplace, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be there. Parked in that garage. And I think I'm on the right floor.
If they let you in, you should be okay. And it's good to know that you can get in.
Yeah, I got
I don't know about
in.
getting out.
I parked in the spot. Let us know how it goes.
If you can't, you just take the bus.
Yeah, I parked in a spot that didn't exactly have a sign.
Blame it on James.
Pardon me, don't read. I'll let you down.
That's a hotel parking lot, not a city parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, there's a key to getting a parking place.
What's that?
When you come earlier, all of the
Spaces
sections
are-
out there are blocked off for us. Unfortunately, it becomes a who gets here first type arrangement, so it's on its own.
And blocked off on what street?
Right here, right?
Right here
in
on
front of
Liberty.
it.
Oh, okay.
So usually everybody's able to get a parking place. This is, every once in a while, somebody will not do it.
It's all about us.
But next time you drive up, you'll see the cones.
I saw the
Drive in.
cones, and I saw somebody standing there,
That's your
but I
guy.
didn't really know why he was there.
To let you
Protect
in.
your parking space.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
it.
I didn't know
Move
why
that
he
cone.
was there. He didn't have sign, and I thought he was like saying, "Go away."
If it's
Nope,
any,
that's
if it's any
your guy.
consolation, nobody told me that for the first 6 months I was on the board. So your first meeting, you find out.
So we're getting better.
Yeah.
We're getting better.
Okay, now let's move back to officers. So we are missing a vice chair. That spot was previously filled by Helen Stone, who has been replaced by one of you two. I'm not sure whom. So I think it's
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Bill Broker for the position of vice chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussions? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to serve in this capacity. I've obviously been on the capital for a long time, so perhaps the experience that I have under my belt with respect to this, I can bring to a new level. And I appreciate the opportunity to serve with all.
Well, I think it was your experience that.
That was my feeling. The length of time you've been here ought to be rewarded with something, and you're not going to get any more money.
Well, I'm not sure that's a reward, but I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
You've been on and off a couple times, haven't you, Bill? Haven't you, Rick?
I've been off once and back on once.
For how many years total? Since we're talking about longevity here today.
Probably a total of 17, 18 years.
Wow.
You're never going to hit the 52 mark.
I guess not.
Okay, so I think now we're going to move into the highlight of our meeting today. And that is Mark from TransPro, who is, I think the two new commissioners will know that we hired a consultant with the county to study our paratransit system, to look at everything that we do, from our costing to our customer service to our call center. And you've been working on this now for several months. And we're ready now for a presentation on where you are today. So welcome, Mark.
Super. Thank you very much. Curtis, anything you want to share in regards to context, or should we just jump in?
Yeah, basically, so there's been some challenges with, the increase in ridership with paratransit and being able to, and it's a nationwide issue in maintaining.
For us to note on.
It's not something that you can necessarily proactively reduce, but it's something you need to contain, and this cost is mandatory. The federal government mandates that we provide this complimentary paratransit service since we receive federal funding and we have fixed route, and but it's unfunded through the federal government. So as costs continue to rise, and that was evident in the increase that the county put in the budget for paratransit costs, there was a decision made to hire a consultant, and we hired TransPro, and the county manager agreed that we would partner together to get his services and to find a way to create more efficiencies, reduce cost, and increase customer satisfaction. And so it's been since April, I believe, Mark, that you've had your team has studied our data, has met with our team, has contacted customers, and this is kind of a status update at this point. There's still a few more milestones that you need to hit, but we ask that you come and give a board update, and so we appreciate your time.
Super, great. Thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it. Nice to see a number of you again, and nice to meet some of you for the first time. Let me maybe add a little bit to Curtis in regards to background, and then jump in. So my name is Mark Ash. I lead a consulting team that actually specializes in public transportation. We ran a relatively large public transportation system for a number of years. put in place a number of transformative initiatives, both on the fixed route side, but also on the paratransit side. For board members that are new, let me sort of pick up on Curtis's point. So paratransit service is for people in the community that are considered to be unable to be able to use the fixed route service. So the federal government provides substantial funding to deliver fixed route service. Those are typically the big buses that you see that run up and down main arteries. Paratransit service, which is designed to be parallel to the fixed route services for those that are unable to be able to use the fixed route system. As the federal government is so quick to do, they're happy to provide money for the fixed route system, and while they require a paratransit system, provide exactly $0 to be able to deliver the paratransit service, even though they require it. So from a local community's perspective, it's in your best interest, and I would argue the community and your customers' best interest, to make sure that people that are using the parallel system truly are in need of using the parallel system. Those are the folks, because if we're able to do that in the right way, it provides us the resources to, number one, recognize employees for 42 years of service because we have the resources to pay them, and secondly, allows us to keep fares stable for both fixed route and paratransit services because we're doing that in the most efficient way. So it's in everyone's best interest to deliver paratransit service in the most productive way that we possibly can. As I jump in, two things that I would want to highlight at the first. So you'll notice the title of the slide is A Path Filled with Progress, but also Continued Opportunity. The management team is really engaged in a number of initiatives over the course of the last year, which I'm going to share with you in catalog that we've discovered over the course of the last 90 days to really make the paratransit system more efficient and more productive. I think it's important that the board has an appreciation for that. The second thing that I would want to share with you is I have good news and I have good news. And rare is it that we get to stand in front of a board and share that and look forward to, based upon our first 90 days, share with you the good news on two different fronts. So Terry, I think you're going to drive, if you would be so kind. A number of different initiatives, and happy to provide a hard copy, obviously, for board members so that you have the chance to see this. I'm going to go through the slides relatively quickly. I'll pause at points so you can certainly process the information that's in place. Happy to respond to questions. Probably makes the most sense to let me give you full context and then take questions at the end. But if something is burning that you feel we need to jump into when we're on a slide, happy to stop and do that. But I think if I can give you the full picture, it'll make our time together the most productive and give you sort of the full view to be able to process exactly what's happening in the paratransit system. So the work that we do, the way that our firm is founded, is to try to achieve the balance, which is so often seen in any government organization. How do we make sure we're delivering high value to the taxpayer, right, so that the taxpayer is able to see their resources used in the most efficient and productive way, balanced with a high quality customer experience, right? So it tends to be in the private sector, we tend to be more financially focused. In the government sector, we've got to achieve both sides. And so our work is very much focused on how does the customer consume the service that we deliver to them, at the same time making sure the taxpayer is being able to see a high level of productivity and a high level of efficiency based upon the service that we deliver for them. So for those that have been on the board but may not have an appreciation for the details of the paratransit service, again, keeping in mind that this is a parallel service to the fixed route service for those that are unable to be able to use the fixed route service. And then also for board members who are new, thought it would be helpful to give you a little bit of a profile of the paratransit service. So you provide about 110,000 rides a year, and they are split between rides which you provide directly, which the agency provides directly, about 60% of those rides, and then you contract out about 40% of those rides to a yellow cab service. So about a 60-40 split there. You have a fleet of a little more than 30 vehicles, of which 21 of them are in use, 10 are considered to be inoperable. So that might cause a question to jump with you, which it should, and we're going to get to that in the next chapter of our work. So you'll see that as I come back to that number. That's a number that we're going to want to focus on going forward. 19 full-time drivers, 3 that are part-time, This is an important number to focus on. You've got about 3,900 people in the community that are considered to be eligible for the paratransit service, right? So let's think about what eligibility means. It means that they are considered to be not able to use the fixed route service. That's the determination of eligibility. About 1,000 of those 3,900 are active. So a little more than 1,000 are actually using the system, have used it over the course of the last 6 months. And this is a number which you should recognize, current board members that are coming on new. Cost recovery is the amount of money that the customer pays for using the service. That's the percentage of the cost of the service that the customer funds. The taxpayer is responsible for the balance. So in our paratransit service, 4% of the cost is by the people who use it. 96% falls on the back of the taxpayer. So it's very important that we really focus on making sure that the people that are using are truly eligible to use. Otherwise, we're putting a massive burden, 96%, on taxpayers. And what happens when we've got to do that? We ultimately come back to having to raise fares on folks. It puts lots of pressure on employees so that we don't have the ability to be as generous as we might want to be, and certainly attract and retain a high-quality workforce. A very, very important number in our industry. That's a number that we would like to be able to work with you all on getting that to be higher. We think there's an opportunity to drive that number in a more positive direction. So 4 key questions in this first element of the work. So the first one is the quality of the customer experience. What is the current level of customer satisfaction, and what are the key drivers to be able to drive that experience? Second key question is the Americans with Disability Act. ADA is the Americans with Disability Act. What's the process for determining eligibility to be able to use our paratransit service? What do we do in regards to certifying every 3 years that people that have been determined to be eligible continue to be eligible? And then what's the process for appeals? If we were to come to a wrong decision in regards to certification, do we have a good appeals process in place for people? Is there a way to deliver the service more effectively, more productively than we do today? What's the most efficient way with the resources that we have to provide this service, which we are required to be able to deliver? And then fourth, once we've answered the first 3 questions, from a board perspective and certainly from a management perspective, we have to be able to monitor it, right? It's one thing to put gas into the bus. We actually need a dashboard to be able to look at and say, is it functioning the way that it should? Are we making sure on a monthly basis we're delivering service in the highest quality way to all of those key elements? So a little bit of an overview. There's been a number of initiatives which the management team has been engaged in. I'm going to share those with you in just a second. Just kind of a highlight view. Look at the customer satisfaction level. 85%, we did a survey of your paratransit customers, 85% satisfaction with the quality of service. So nationally it would be very, very high levels of satisfaction from your customer base. People are happy with the service that you're delivering to them today. But there continues to be, to that point of balance, right? So I'll go back to that slide of the teeter-totter I shared, quality of experience savings. While customers are very happy, significant opportunities in regards to the productivity of the system. So you've made a number of changes, but there continues to be north of 7 figures of opportunity of efficiency that could be taken out of the system and still deliver a high quality experience to your customers. So this is a list. I'm not going to go down through each one. You can read it for yourself. I'll highlight a few of initiatives that are currently underway. So before we were engaged to work with you all, these are things that have been underway. So let me take down a couple of these. So functional assessments. You're going to see me talk about that a couple of times this morning. Paratransit service is for those that are unable to use the fixed route service. So one of the ways that we determine is a functional assessment. Is someone capable of using the fixed route service, or do they truly need it? The agency has already been in place in regards to doing that. One of the great issues that we have in delivering paratransit service is we tend to have a relatively high percentage of people who cancel at the last minute or simply don't show up for their ride. If someone cancels or doesn't show up for their ride, we can't plug it in with someone else, right? The ride has been scheduled that particular way. The agency has begun a new process. Is the day before we push out a robocall system to everyone, and they have the chance to be able to opt out. We reschedule the rides after that robocall. Really allows us to be more efficient and more productive. A year ago, we didn't have radios. We have radios on board now, so we have the ability to be able to communicate with our operators when they're in service. And this is a wonderful highlight, which all board members and certainly the agency should be thrilled with, a new agreement with the county in regards to service beyond the required 3/4 of a mile. For new board members, the fixed route service runs up the main artery. The paratransit service is required to be 3/4 of a mile on either side of that. Here, we've provided service beyond that 3/4 of a mile, but no one was funding it. We simply were providing it. There's a new agreement in place with the county now to actually begin to fund that. I'm going to share some details on that in a second. So all these initiatives underway with the management team before we ever showed up on the scene, beginning to identify new areas of opportunity. Customer satisfaction. So we surveyed about 150 of your customers, had direct interaction and communication with them. As I shared, satisfaction levels very, very high. The single most important metric to people that use the paratransit service, be on time. That's the most important thing to them in regards to their experience. Second most important thing in regards to their experience, safety. Safety is the second most important metric, making sure that they feel safe waiting and also safe while riding. Look at the distinction here. Now this is a number that I want to point out to you. Our actual on-time performance for our paratransit vehicles is 95%. Don't we wish that everything in life ran at 95%? Our vehicles, the single most important thing to customer satisfaction is on-time performance, and we're phenomenal at it, 95%. However, look at the disconnect between what the customer believes. So the customer only gives us credit for 75% on-time performance. There's a communication opportunity there, right? A 20-point gap between true on-time performance and impression. That's a communication opportunity to be able to drive that. Won't surprise you based upon the retirement ceremony that we just had. Look at the satisfaction level with the workforce. 95% of paratransit customers indicate a positive experience with the person driving their vehicle. So this tells us we're very good at the number one thing that's important to them, and they really enjoy their interaction with the person who's driving their vehicle. Very, very positive experience in regards to that. So let me begin to dig into the second question. So this is ADA eligibility. So this is the process whereby we determine people who are going to be eligible for the paratransit service, and then also recertified every 3 years, making sure we have the right people who are able to use the service because that's their only option, right? That's the option that they have to be parallel to the fixed route service in regards to this. This graph should show you that we've seen significant ups and downs into the number of people who are considered to be eligible. So look back here, we were allowing about 83% of applications 4 years ago were considered to be eligible. Then it went to 92, then back to 82, then up to 96, which is where we are today. What that tells us is we've had a lot of changes in personnel, but also in process in regards to determining eligibility. There's been years that we've been more stringent and years that we've been more lax. So that begins to tell us we clearly have the ability, we clearly have done it, but we've begun to lose sight at different times of making sure, are we being certain that the people that are being eligible for the service are the ones that are using it. Go ahead. We wanted to give you a snapshot nationally, and so you've got about 10 or a dozen different peers here in regards to their certification levels. So this is sort of industry norm. So this is looking at us, where today we are at a 96% certification level. But as you begin to look at some other peers around the country, you can see that they're much more stringent in making sure they're going through the applications. Again, we want people to be able to use paratransit service, but we want to ensure that they are folks who truly need the service. Otherwise, we're injuring all parties by allowing people in to use paratransit service that are not truly eligible. And you can see that a number of peers around the country are in fact being more stringent and being more eyes wide open in regards to the process of those folks that are eligible. Go ahead, Terry. This is the current state. These are our recommendations in regards to making sure that we have a very robust certification process and that we also have a robust recertification process. Now, one of the elements in that is there are some people who, as we certify them to be able to use the service, their disability is such that it's simply never going to change. Their life experiences are just not going to change. We really don't need to go through a recertification process with them every 3 years, right? We're really wasting everyone's time and money in regards to that. There are some people that we can just certify to always be eligible for the service. That's an opportunity for us in regards to eligibility. Go ahead, Terry. So, let me summarize this section. Our current certification rate is at 96%. If we operated at industry norm, we would be at 92% certification rate in regards to that. This is the number of rides that would impact on an annual basis, and it results in about $55,000 a year in annual savings. So a significant opportunity just to be able to achieve some of the norms that you have in past years to making sure that people who are truly eligible to use the service are the ones that are using it. That's question number 2. Terry, if you would. Question number 3 is in regards to utilizing fixed route. So for new board members, I was sharing we've got our sort of our main arteries that we provide, and then up to 3/4 of a mile we provide paratransit service. The current state at the agency today is we do not allow people that are considered to be ADA eligible, people that are using our paratransit service, to use the fixed route system for free. Now let's think about the cost factors. If we're running a big bus down a main artery, there is a fixed cost associated with that, right? So whether one person gets on or 100 people get on, the cost is the cost. It's just a question of how much revenue we pick up. That's different than paratransit service, where every time someone calls to request a ride, we send a bus. We send a bus, right? It's very much a demand response system. So it's in the agency's interest, employees' interest, and customers' interest to get as many people onto the fixed route system with fixed costs as we can. That's in our interest to do that, also our customers, also our employees. So if we were able to make a change to deliver what others around the country are doing, go ahead, Terry, by allowing people to be able to use the fixed route service for free, of which there is not cost associated. We already have the cost associated with that. Based upon the cost per ride that we have in our paratransit service, it's about $320,000 a year in savings to the agency. Those are resources that we can use for so many other things, providing additional fixed route service, training for employees, keeping fares stable for our paratransit customers, substantial savings simply by opening the doors of the fixed route system and allowing those that are ADA eligible to take advantage. Go ahead, Terry. Productivity of the system. So the way that the industry measures the productivity of a paratransit system is by how many people it can pick up in each hour that we drive. So fixed route system, we have a fixed cost. With a paratransit system, it is demand responsive. So the more people that we can pick up in each hour, the more productive the system is. So again, we're giving you a snapshot of peers. Over here is where we are. The number of people that we're picking up in each hour, about 1.5 persons, as compared to other industry norms. And I will tell you, I don't think there are parallels, but in cities that are more dense, it's not uncommon to see this number move up into the 4s and the 5s. It's not uncommon to be able, I don't think we'll ever get to the 4s and the 5s, but if we can get ourselves to being in here, which is clearly attainable, you're going to see in a second, just by moving from here to here, the amount of money that is saved by the service hour that we deliver is substantial. Tied to that, I had teed this up a second ago by sort of teasing the issue. These are our late shows and our no cancels that we have in place. So these are folks when the route is already set, right? We set a schedule for our bus to pull out and people to be picked up by it. And this is the percentage of people who cancel very late and say, I no longer want you to come get me. We've already set the route, and the person cancels last minute, or they simply don't show up. Compare this to some others, and we're relatively high there. There's an opportunity for us to begin to have some impact on our late cancels and our no-shows to begin to change behavior of our customers. Because we have a cost, right? There's a cost associated with that. If we have scheduled the route for the bus to go out, we can no longer put someone in that spot. We can't put somebody into that position because the route has been built that way. The customer's calling us at the last minute. Go ahead. So today, we've done a number of different programs here, but there continues to be, so you can see here I mentioned the rebatching after we put the robocall out at the end of the day. That began back in May. We have started, you can see management has moved forward with the opportunity to put a late show and a no cancellation policy. We're waiting to get back approval from the Federal Transit Administration, which is the regulatory body nationally, to put that into effect. Here is a terrific opportunity for us. There is two different kinds of rides in paratransit. One is a subscription ride. So that's someone who wants to go to work on a regular basis or go to a medical appointment or go to visit. They're always taking that trip. We can have up to 50% of our rides that we schedule be subscription based. If we know someone's always going to have the same experience, we can schedule more efficiently around that, as opposed to people that are calling and saying, hey, I want to go to the mall tomorrow, can you take me? Those are much more complicated rides to schedule. So it's in our interest to drive our subscription rate higher than it is today. Today we're about half. We're at 23% subscription rates. We'd like to be able to see that get higher. So all of these pieces tie together in regards to how efficient we can make our scheduling of our routes to be able to drive them to be more productive. Terry, if you would. By simply driving our customers per hour to the norm, just to the industry norm. So we're not talking about getting to 2.5 or 6 or 7, which we think you would love to be able to get to. Just getting to the norm has a substantial savings in the number of service hours that we deliver. Are you ready for this? This doesn't impact a customer at all. It's simply how productive we can deliver the service. 7 figures, that space alone. Just by getting to industry norm of what our peers are. And look at this, if we can get our no-show and late cancellation policy, again, to the norm, 6 figures, $100,000 in savings there. Again, no impact on customer. Substantial savings associated with the opportunity to be more productive simply by making those minor adjustments in the service that we deliver. Go ahead, Terry. I mentioned that we provide ADA service required by law up to 3/4 of a mile on either side of a fixed route. That's the requirement that the federal government puts in place. Here in Savannah, we have historically gone beyond that 3/4 of a mile. So anywhere within the community that people want to go, we've provided that service. And you can see it's not insignificant. It's about a little under 3,000 rides, about 2.5 or 3% of the rides that we provide every year, but not inexpensive. A fantastic win, I'll bring you down to these two pieces. So just starting on July 1st with our new year, as the chairman shared, as we began, the county has now agreed to step forward and to begin to subsidize all of those trips that go beyond the 3/4 of a mile. That's $200,000 a year in new revenue to the agency simply for funding the service that goes beyond what the law requires. The agency's happy to provide it, but needs to make sure there's a corresponding revenue source. If we're going to go beyond what the law requires, we should be funded for that. And a fantastic win for the management team, for the agency, and I would suggest for the customers to be able to have the corresponding revenue to offset that service which we've been providing. Terrific win. We would have recommended that, but we get to put a big checkbox in that one. It's been achieved already. Fantastic, fantastic win to have that in place. Go ahead, Terry. So between all factors, to kind of pull this together, were we to improve our eligibility process to ensure that those who are truly eligible are the ones that are using the service. Were we to, again, so minimal impact on customers, right? Minimal impact on customers. Here, if we made the transition to allowing people to utilize the fixed route system for free, which is no cost to us, were we to have impact on our no-show and late cancellation policy and get our productivity of our system to industry norm with nominal impact on the customer experience, of which they already enjoy to the point of 85% satisfaction levels, $1.4 million in opportunity. Substantial opportunity in savings from the way you deliver the service today that can be used to keep fares stable, expand fixed route service, work with employees in regards to the efficiency and the performance that they deliver every year. Substantial savings that you've got to be able to deliver. Let me paint the path forward, and then be happy to open up for some questions, Terry, if you would. So to summarize, these are a number of the areas that the management team has already begun to look into, substantial advances that the group has made. Down here would summarize for you, we go back to the teeter-totter, 85% satisfaction level with the service, very high, happy customers. At the same time, you can really keep that, but harvest up to about $1.4 million through being more efficient, productive, taking advantage of your full network. And over the course of the next couple of months, Carrie, if you would, I mentioned the vehicles at the front. We're going to be finishing up what the ideal vehicle roster should be for you to be able to deliver service. We've got 10 inactive buses today. We don't have a handle yet on what the right fleet size is, so we're going to be finishing that up over the course of the next several months. Doing the same thing on the driver head count. We don't know what the ideal staffing level is. It might be more, we're not sure, so we need to be able to look into that. And I mentioned that question 4 was in regards to building a structure for you all to manage this on a going forward basis. So we're going to be building out a performance scorecard so that every month we can look to see, are we on the path that we need to be to deliver high quality customer experience and make the system run as efficiently and effectively as we can. Wanted to wrap by talking a little bit, we've talked this morning about the paratransit service. That was our initial charge to really focus there. That was a substantial issue. We've made great strides. The management team is, just that one victory alone, frankly, with getting the county to subsidize that 3% of service to the tune of $200,000, a fantastic win by your management team. The opportunities to potentially begin to look at the fixed route side of the house, right? So that's the big buses that go down the main arteries. And some of the board members will recognize this slide. This is an example, Terry, if you would, of different agencies that we've worked with over the course of recent years of being able to deliver a higher quality customer experience, but substantial savings in regards to the fixed route side of the house. So we've identified $1.4 million in paratransit. I'll give you an example. A transit agency in upstate New York that we just finished working with, about half the size of yours, we've made a number of changes in their fixed route service. Customer satisfaction is up 41%, and the community put $500,000 in their pocket. So realizing the ability to achieve both of those sides of the house to be able to make the system better from a customer quality experience perspective, but at the same time be able to reduce costs so you can use it for employees, customers, keep fares stable and the like. I threw a lot of information at you in 20 minutes. Why don't I stop and be happy to take some questions, clarification.
Bill.
Okay. This might be a question more for Curtis than you, Mark, but all the cost savings, the $200,000 from the increased funding for the countywide system benefits CAT, but since our paratransit costs are essentially passed through to the county, this $1.3 million savings is essentially going to be a county savings, not a CAT savings, isn't it?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's not really, not that we don't want to do it, I'm not suggesting that, but that's a benefit to the county from better management.
Net of the cost of the resources to provide.
Well, and I guess that was kind of my question.
Right.
There's
So
probably some benefit to us.
Well, yeah, we've provided this service for years, and it's really been underfunded for years. Underfunded from a staffing point of view, underfunded from a cost point of view, just in general. And as costs continue to rise over the last 7 years, the rate that CAT was paid to provide the service had not changed in 7 years, and so all that cost over those those years had just been burdened by CAT. Sure. So if there's any savings realized through this, it goes back to the county since they actually fund this service.
And I might suggest, would look forward, particularly if you begin to explore the fixed route side of the house as well. Is there an opportunity to reach an agreement with the county that if we are able to deliver same quality of service at reduced cost through being more efficient, could some of those dollars perhaps go into expansions of service to different areas, right? Are there ways that we could use those dollars for other purposes?
I have a couple of others unless somebody else has got one.
I got a bunch, but I can wait till you finish.
He's got a couple, why don't you?
Okay, let me just get a couple of these in real quick. In terms of the couple of statistical things, just because statistics can be interpreted so many ways. Your satisfaction survey you had, I think it was 142 participants out of over 1,000 active riders. I wonder if that difference between 95% on time and 75% satisfaction could be a function of who those 142 people are. Well, that could be 142 people because the people who are most likely to respond are the people who are unhappy. So that could be weighted toward people who were part of that 5% of not on-time performance. I mean, that might be part of the disconnect there.
Yeah, so a couple things. First, so beyond agree with you, whenever you do surveys, there's always going to be, wiggle factor. I think that's plus or minus 4.5% is my recollection. Just in a deviation, exactly right. The way that we do customer satisfaction surveys is we never let the quote satisfied or the dissatisfied contact us. So we always approach the customer. So the way that we do that is not letting the quote that are people who are less happy overweight. We always reach out directly to the customer as opposed to the other way around. We don't do online, we don't do any of that. We always reach out to them.
Okay, and then the statistics on the variations in certification. Who's eligible, 80, 90, 80, 90. Could some of that be a function of the nature of the applicant? I mean, could some of that variation be some years when there was a higher approval rate, actually there were more people that needed that certification?
Yeah, it's a good, so I don't know the answer.
I know there's no good way to answer
Yeah,
that.
so I don't know the answer to your question. My experience would tell me that if we saw one change, that could well be the explanation, but when we see this, that tells us, number one, personnel, and number two, policy, right? So if we saw it once, I think I would be more inclined to say yes, but when we see this kind of thing, that tells us we've got a personnel change and we've got a policy change.
And on the...
And last piece, it also tells us the opportunities there, right? I mean, it clearly says the opportunities there.
On the no-show, is there some option for, I mean, I hesitate using the word penalty, but is there some sort of, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, there's a...
Yes. Yes. And I think what the agency is working through now is striking the balance, right? So you don't typically do that on the first time. There's typically kind of 3 notches within a period. So we're working through the detail on that, but the answer to the question is yes.
I think Tabitha's next.
Okay, I have a couple. I want to understand what you were saying about the ADA certification process. So are you saying that if we do not currently have a tier or classification process, such as long-term, permanent, short-term, to classify our ADA participants, and that if we had such a process, that would help in determining when to reclassify and not to reclassify a person?
Yeah, so maybe split the question into two, because I think we got two questions that are coming together. The first question, I think, ties back to the question that Bill was just sharing, which is in regards to the new applicant when they comes in. So we think there is an opportunity to be more precise in who we allow in. I think the second part of your question is in regards to the recertification component once someone has been in for 3 years. At current time, we're treating everyone in the recertification pool the same, and we think there's an opportunity for people that are going to be considered to be permanently disabled, their life experience is simply not going to change. We really don't need to spend the resources on recertifying them every 3 years. There's going to be an audience of our customer base that we can permanently certify and simply waive from that. We think that gives us the chance to be able to spend more time looking at a smaller audience that we should be looking at every 3 years. others.
But aren't there some people that would come into the process that would automatically be short-term? Say if you break both your legs, you qualify, right?
Not necessarily.
To ride paratransit? No?
No.
We have wheelchairs that get on our bus every day.
Every day. Okay.
You'd be it's one of the shockers for folks with paratransit service, so I don't know what it is here, but typically nationally, about 80% of those that are using paratransit service are ambulatory. You know,
Okay.
are folks that are not in wheelchairs, to your question. So the overwhelming majority are not people in that situation.
Which is why they could use fixed rate
Absolutely.
services.
Absolutely.
But we currently do not have a process that allows them to use fixed rate services.
For free.
For free.
Correct. They can use fixed route, certainly, it's open to everyone, but it's not.
But not for
But you have to pay the rate.
So we would have to give them some sort of pass or something to allow them to ride for free.
Those systems are easy to put in place, but we're, to play your scenario all the way through, were we to certify someone for paratransit service, which is a much more expensive service for it to deliver, it's demand responsive, we have a no-show where people just don't show, all those pieces.
And they're ambulatory.
Or not, either way, right, either way. If we provided them with a pass to be able to use the fixed route for free, and we could move them through training and other initiatives to the fixed route service, we essentially have no cost associated with that.
Right.
And they have the independence now to be able to move around the community.
When they want to.
Yeah, and we can save $325,000 to be able to do so many other things with that.
Are we federally prohibited from allowing them to use fixed route?
Best practice is to do that.
So we just haven't.
Correct.
Okay. So with the subscription services, you're talking about people who have regularly scheduled visits, but are you talking also about things like, you know, Tuesdays are grocery store days, so everybody wants to go to the grocery store on Tuesday, Thursdays, Fridays are mall days. Everybody, so you set certain days, you set a monthly calendar, and you subscribe to go these days for these events.
Every Thursday I want to get my toes painted, every Monday I want to go to the
Yes.
mall. Thanks.
Subscriptions.
It just it's a schedule that doesn't change. So
The schedule that doesn't change, and you
Exactly.
subscribe to those days, we pick you up, we take you, we bring you back.
And it's in our best, so it's good for the customer, right?
Right.
Because they can set the same schedule, and it's good for us because we can then use that as a linchpin to build a other schedule off of it. It's called casual rides.
Right.
And those are people that are calling saying, I'd like to go to wherever tomorrow.
Okay, and then for the mobile, I saw you said something about mobile telephone communications or something?
I think probably radios for our buses.
Where the robocalls and
Yes,
such?
yes.
Okay, now, does that include the ability to allow them to confirm an appointment by phone, by mobile phone, like a text message confirmation?
So the purpose of the robocall is at the end of the day, once we have our schedule set, so we're going to send out 19 buses tomorrow, they're going to run all around picking people up based on the schedule. The robocall, because we have a 7% no-show late cancellation, is a call back to the customer to say, we are scheduled to pick you up at 10 o'clock tomorrow to take you to wherever.
Right.
Push 1 if you intend to take this ride, push 2 if you want to cancel. It now gives us the information ahead of time when we can try to reprogram that schedule.
Okay.
Management has already begun to do that.
Okay, now, is that something that can extend to like a text message service or just the call?
I think at this point we're just making the call.
Because, you know, some people don't answer toll-free.
Sure.
So you might get a lot of people that are not answering those, but if it was a text message to them, they would easily be able to text back yes or no. So maybe we could look into whether or not text messaging could be added to the robocalls. I don't know if that's an option.
Sure.
Okay. And then my other question was, I noticed that we use Yellow Cab service as a vendor. So is that a vendor agreement that we have with them? And how do we manage the risk with them? Like, we set limits for the insurance, background searches, we have all of that outlined to determine, make sure we don't have a serial killer picking up somebody.
And they are trained, so training is provided to them.
So you have a certain list of Yellow Cab drivers.
Specific.
And those drivers have to maintain a certain level of insurance.
We actually provide some vehicles to Yellow Cab to use, some paratransit type vehicles that have wheelchair accessibility and stuff like that. So they lease them from us. We get the vehicles and through federal grant funding, and then they lease them, and they use those vehicles to provide service as well.
And they're trained.
But they go through sensitivity training. They go through all the training. They come to our facility to be trained. We also monitor them. We mandate that they have a drug and alcohol program, so they have random tests and stuff like that. So this is all under the regulations from the FTA.
So assuming that in the next step, Mark's going to tell us how many vans we need, I think it's our long-term intent to take this all in-house.
Yeah, so...
I mean, do we have any of these leases
right,
that
so,
are going to prevent us from doing
so
that?
all of our paratransit vehicles, all of them, are beyond their useful life. So it's, there's been no replacements over the several years. And so we recently were awarded a grant from the federal government to replace our fleet, which I believe by the end of this year we'll have fully replaced our entire fleet. That's one hurdle why we have had to farm out some of the work. The other issue is like Mark had highlighted, is that depending on the efficiencies we're able to obtain, we will then be able to know the true vehicle count we need and the driver count we need in order to be most effective with saving the taxpayers money.
So is our goal to move away from this vendor agreement?
So can I answer that by saying we don't know the answer to that question yet? So I think what we've tried to sort through is the balance of where substantial opportunities are. In this next phase of work, we're going to begin to answer that question. Is there a balance? What's the right balance? What's our right fleet size? We don't know the answer to that question
So
yet.
you'll be able to tell us the level of risk we have by outsourcing this particular service. It's just concerning that we lease them our vehicles, they drive our patrons.
Right. So part of the thing
these
is
are people that, I mean, how liable are we for what they do?
We have a program called Cat Freedom, and so it was introduced a few years ago. And basically, Cat Freedom is where people can get a taxi ride based on the fact that they just need a ride. They don't call necessarily. They call them and they get a ride. They have tickets that they can use, and there was this program set up, and that program has expanded. And then we've also had overflow of our paratransit service with this because of the fact that our vehicle status is what it is. So the goal isn't necessarily to not use the vendor. The goal is to be as productive and efficient as possible, and if that results in not using them, then that would just be the byproduct of it. But ideally, you'd want to do everything, with maximum control of yourself, which would be bring it all in-house.
So expanding that particular service, they carry enough insurance to cover us?
Yes, they carry enough insurance to cover. Well, it's a liability issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate getting sued. I'm just wondering, are we covered enough? If they do something weird, crazy, odd, do we have enough coverage in every area of that?
Yeah, the exact dollar amount, I don't know. Erica, do you have a number?
I don't have a number. They have what's called a captive insurer for taxi cabs since they're such high risk. And they have more than adequate amounts of insurance for that type of service that they run, including all of the risk is assumed on their part by our contract and by their insurance.
Is that just bodily injury, though?
It's all of it. General liability, physical damage,
professional
and auto liability, all of it.
Like conduct.
They have
harassment.
Yeah, they have all of that coverage, which is also a requirement of the contract with them as a contractor. And we've had, it's been a few years with Yellow Cab now, I think.
And they provide us with a certificate of insurance every year, a new one every year.
And the federal government actually audits us to make sure that we're managing.
But as with all of our contractors.
Right.
It's actually very common in the paratransit industry to contract out service delivery. It's probably more normal to do that than not.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Bill first, Chester second, Pete's third.
I was going to ask you.
I'm sorry, not. I meant
that's
Wayne.
Bill. Okay.
I
Bill,
confused
you put me back on.
You're fifth.
So to kind of follow up on something that you were saying about trying to move away from the using yellow cab as a contract, the vehicles that we purchase, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, were purchased with New Freedom money, which we made cap freedom. I see nods, so I think I'm right. That money was specifically provided to extend beyond what ADA requires. So the pot of money, the New Freedom money that was made available by the federal government is what we use to purchase the taxis that we lease.
For the Cat Freedom program.
For the Cat Freedom
For the
program,
Cat
yes, sir.
Right. It's just an extension of New Freedom.
Yes.
Right. So, I hope we don't move in the direction of trying to take it all in-house and do away with that, because that is what made wheelchair accessible taxis available. Prior to that, there were no wheelchair accessible taxis available of any type in Savannah whatsoever.
There's no intention on removing the Cat Freedom program.
Okay,
That's
I just
not
wanted to get
why
that
we're
out there.
doing it.
So.
Yeah.
And the vehicles for Cat Freedom that were purchased with those original New Freedom grant monies, they're separate than the vehicles that we're using for paratransit.
Okay. The second thing is I wanted to ask about your subscription and no-show trips, because at one of the paratransit committee meetings, one of our paratransit staff had begun to drill down into those numbers and found out that, for example, somebody had a subscription trip and no one, not the person, not a family member, no one notified CAT. So our driver continues to show up 5 times because they had a subscription trip, and so that's 5 no-shows when in fact the number was inflated. Did you drill down into those numbers?
Can't speak to the summary. Happy to pull that together for you.
Okay.
That sounds like a technology failure, where sounds like we had scheduled a subscription, but the person didn't want it.
Well, and nobody had notified CAT, so our driver continues to show up. They show up 5 times, when in fact it's one person failing to notify us that the person was in the hospital, was not available, would not be used.
Yeah, so that would be
so that would
if
be
the customer has not
inflation.
notified us, well, it wouldn't inflate it. I mean, we truly scheduled the bus and.
But it was a no-show, but there was a reason behind the no-show.
Right. There's risk with subscription, obviously,
Sure.
because it's in the books. It's going to happen no matter what. If they fail to notify us, then the driver's still going out there.
Right. I just want to make sure that we capture that, make sure that somebody lets us know not to show up, so that we don't continue to
And
repeat the same.
we've redone our policy, and then we're just waiting for the FTA to approve it, and then we can implement it.
Right. Okay.
That's why subscriptions tied to a no-show policy is so important.
Okay. And you talked about, was it 40%? You said, are the trips that we farm out Yellow Cab? Did you look at any synergies that we could have by working with the Yellow Cab app for those people who have smartphones? Yellow Cab invested a significant amount of money into an app that maybe it's not Uber, but it's comparable. And maybe that's something that our paratransit riders could use to see that vehicle coming towards them, and they get a little notification whenever the vehicle's outside.
Yeah.
So that may travel training. You mentioned it, but I didn't see it specifically mentioned. I noticed you said it's cheaper for us to just allow people to ride for free than currently we charge them half price. So is there any mentoring, or so one paratransit rider trains another paratransit rider so they feel comfortable with the system, so they're more apt to take a mainline trip versus
Yeah,
paratransit?
so what we wanted to do in this report was to provide you sort of a sense of what the size of the prize was, right? What the potential opportunity was. Were you to decide to push play, then it's beginning to build out the activities to implement. So if we decide to open up fixed route and make it free, there's a number of action steps to get. One of them would certainly be a training program.
I like the thing that you said about concentrating on the people that are maybe conditionally eligible, or questionably eligible, versus the person that has had a disability for 25 or 30 years, and they're going to have it for as long as they live. So
not worth their time, not worth our time.
Exactly, it's more efficient. The last thing is, I hope that we don't go down the road of questioning trip purpose. I know that over the years, we have gotten into that realm. Ty can back me up on this, I think, is that we can't request what the purpose of the trip is. So somebody that wants to go to the grocery store, somebody that wants to go to the doctor, we can't ask trip purpose. I mean, we know where they go, but we can't ask trip purpose.
There's some pretty funny stories in the industry related to that, and yes, you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Chester.
First, let me say this. Personally, I'm going to need time to understand exactly the whole operation. So as I said to you before, there's going to need to be an orientation period, because I think a lot of the questions Tabitha asked, if we had known before today just how we operate and what format and what direction we're going, then we would understand more of what's going on around the table, okay? So sometime between now and I need to sit down with staff and they need to educate me on the way CAT operates and all the do's, don'ts, and rules and don'ts, okay? Secondly, I'm the type person that I deal with, I don't try to fix what's right, but I do work with what's wrong. One of the things I got from your presentation is that there is a 7% cancellation. All right, so how do we fix that? That would be my focus. The other part of that is that there is 3,000 plus who are eligible, but only 1,000 who are using. That would be a concern of mine. The third concern of mine would be that those 10 that are inoperable. Now, when we get the new grant that you have that you got from the government, that's going to replace some of those? Or?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Then secondly, and this is probably something you can't answer, nobody around here can answer unless you were here, okay? Past doings cause you to be where you are. There wasn't a maintenance type schedule to keep up. That's why they become inoperable. You know, if you don't paint your house, you know, if you don't take care of your windows, after a while the costs get enormous. You know what I'm saying? So that happened in the past. So going forward, do we have maintenance plans and things in place so that we know that the life of this bus we just bought in 2017 is 10 years?
Yes, sir.
So 2027 we're gonna be looking to get rid of him and get a new Herc.
Right. And they all have a useful life range, and we actually over the past year have instituted a program so that the buses that are so old now are still able to drive because of what we've been doing this past year. So we do have a preventive maintenance program we put in place over this past year, and we'll get to that in another presentation. But yes, so we have all the markers in place, and I don't know. Again, I wasn't here, but I don't know if it was necessarily that they just didn't maintain the vehicles or didn't have the money to maintain the vehicles or the staff. I don't know. But I do know where we're going forward.
And my point is we don't need to go there.
Right.
We know where we are.
Yes.
And so how are we going forward
yes.
is what I would like to concentrate on, not what we did in the back. Getting those things which are behind. Let's go toward tomorrow. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But I'm still at the point now. Two of the problems that you see is the cancellation so high that we need to bring it down, and we need to move our numbers more toward the 2.1%. All right, so what is in your next presentation that you're going to give us recommendations how to do that, or we already start to do some things to accomplish that?
Yeah, so I think it is a little bit of both. And I do want to be clear so that the board has an appreciation in regards to the late cancellation and no-show. A late cancellation is such that it doesn't give us the opportunity to do anything about
right.
it. So if we were to get canceled, 24 hours in advance, we can then do something about it. This is very much a late cancellation where sometimes the bus is literally on its way, and
and that's what the 7% is.
That's the 7%. Exactly.
So my question is going back to the thing. It's going to tie into what Tabitha said. If we've got the resources to send a text message to the driver, could be on their way, but we can say cancel that trip and go ahead to this one. See, we have those resources, then it's not a total loss,
right?
Because it never gets there, and then we find out. And I understand exactly what you're saying when you're saying those very late. that it doesn't give us a chance to do anything. But my point is there something technically we can do to get rid of the anything? See, that's how I would like to work.
Right.
Where to get rid of the anything? So even if it's a radio communication, all right. Telluride 47, you were supposed to pick up at Route 48, cancel and go ahead to Route 49. Simple over the radio. So now I might be a block from the house, but I can still turn and go where I need to go, rather than going where I don't need to go.
And I might suggest from a board perspective, if you are attracted
Right.
to the savings potential of making the system be as productive as peers are nationally, that you turn to your management team and say, we're attracted to that, we like that, please come back with us with a plan as to how we can achieve that. So rather than at the board table trying to design the how, recognize that you like the success that comes from that, and turn to your CEO to put together the work plan to make it happen for you.
All right, the other multitude I save until, because I got a multitude of them, all right, but I don't want to bore everybody else and tie up the whole meeting with just what I have. So if I can, if
We
you
need
can
to set up an
schedule,
orientation.
yeah, set up that orientation for me and bring me the facts, because I operate on facts.
Actually, Curtis and I talked as we were setting up the agenda that we would like to pick a day where you and Tabitha can come in and we can do this all at once. And Jay, you've been here now for a few months. I don't know if you want to sit through it or not. That would be.
We have customarily had.
That's your choice.
We've customarily had orientation when there's been a significant turnover in board members. We've had an orientation session for the new board members or for the entire board as a refresher.
Schedule it, please.
Okay, I think Pete, you were next. You had
Okay,
your
well, he just talked about the things that I was really concerned about, the no-shows and the cancel. What percentage do you make that determination about no-shows and cancellation?
We'd like to see you be less than 5. We think the opportunity is there to be less than 5%.
And to get to that is what he was saying is you have a plan that has worked in other places or what you have put together to be able to reduce that?
Correct.
Okay.
And I was just cautioning, for the board level to set a target for your CEO and then empower your CEO to come back to you with a plan as to how he intends to achieve that, rather than trying to design the plan at the board table.
Okay, Bill, I didn't see you, but I saw Jay. Did you raise your hand?
I'll defer to Jay.
For Jay?
And then I'll come after Jay.
My first question was, I didn't hear anything as far as we're outsourcing this thing already. As far as the cost difference may be associated to actually having it in-house, where we actually will have better control and we'll have better management as far as employee staff is concerned. So can you elaborate, or if you did not elaborate, can we get some information on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the commissioner was asking that question. We don't have that yet. That's certainly our intention in the next step, is to have a full understanding of what is the right balance and what is in your economic best interest, balanced with quality of customer experience best interest. So we are certainly going to get to that. We're not to that level of detail yet.
And the second question was, following the sentiments of what Mr. Dawson was saying, we already are in plans of having a CAT app. We've already passed that point. Rather than, and that's why I go for outsources, rather than going to Yellow Cab or whoever, if this is a CAT situation, why aren't we trying to put it on CAT's app versus putting it on Yellow Cab's app? And I'm just asking that question.
Yeah, again, I think good question. We should answer the first question, which will feed the second question, right? So I beyond agree. I think it's in your best interest. Let's answer the first one, and then that tells us, that moves to the how then, right? What's the best action steps to be able to maximize the experience once we've made the balanced decision between in-source, outsource.
And I want to reiterate the fact that I said in the last board meeting, Google Maps already has the taxis, the Ubers, and all that already incorporated in it. So when you're actually doing this, it might be a point of including paratransit in that piece as well. And that's all my questions.
Yeah, just a couple of things. When we look at the 40-60 divide between, in-house and utilizing outside vendors for the provision of services, is that unusual? What is the national norm on that?
Probably a little bit higher than we might have expected in regards to the outsource. Not uncommon to the commissioner's question that all is outsourced. That's not uncommon. It's, I would say, probably more the norm than not. Not uncommon at all that there is a balance, between the two, particularly for overflow, but probably a little bit higher than we might have expected.
And did you
But
look at
just to finish that, and we need to know, but we don't know yet, what is in your economic best interest in regards to that balance, and then we have to dovetail that to quality of experience. We don't know those two lenses yet.
So you anticipated my next question, which was, do we know the average, cost per ride with respect to in-house?
Yeah. All right. So we need to know that. We don't know it yet.
And where are we now on the subscription service? For some reason, I was under the impression we were not necessarily encouraging subscription. I get the sense that you agree with that, or that's what.
No, we think there's an opportunity there to maximize that.
Right. I mean, in the past, we've not really done.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
We think there's an opportunity there.
Okay.
Yeah. You're at 23% subscription right today. We think there's an opportunity to grow that.
Okay.
Which should help with your no-show, late cancel issues.
And so I take it from that we're not really encouraging people to utilize the subscription service.
Correct.
And then finally, the disconnect between on-time performance and people's perceptions of on-time performance. I mean, is that another norm, or?
Yeah.
Is that just the way it is?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It was somewhere here that topic got put into play, and he was here.
Yeah.
That's a bit higher than normal, but it's not abnormal.
Which one?
It's not abnormal that there is a gap between impression. I'll give you a sense. We do some work with call centers, and if someone is on hold for 2 minutes in a call center experience, they will say when asked. So we'll test this to test it. They will say when someone comes back on, how long do you believe you're on hold for? They put it at 8.
Wow.
So it demonstrates that disconnect between your true on-time performance is very high. That disconnect between the impression.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Wayne?
Follow-up comment. Mr. Jones had made the point about our app and working together with the Yellow Cab app. I posed that question to our IT person last time, and he said that our app would work together with the Yellow Cab app. So it's not like they're two different systems. They will work together.
If I could just wrap by putting it in the whole thing. I started by saying good news and good news. So the good news is your customer base is very happy with the service quality today, to the point of being very happy. The other good news is $1.4 million in opportunity with nominal impact on customer experience. And I want to point out, that's simply on the paratransit side of the house. So I know as you're beginning to think about the fixed route side of the house, which is exponentially larger in opportunity, if you can get to a similar place with stabilizing customer experience at the same time harvesting the savings, now you're really beginning to produce a substantial pool of money to maybe have a conversation about doing other things with.
No, I think that was a very, very interesting presentation. I learned a lot about what we can do, and the opportunities are quite impressive. And being a taxpayer from Chatham County, if the county gets back most of it, I'm fine with that, because it'll save citizens of Chatham County money, and hopefully they share a little bit with us, but who knows? And I was really happy to see that our satisfaction rate is so high. But I tend to be one that sometimes good news is good news is good news. I would wonder, can we do another sample, a little bigger sample? You've got 142 people out of either 1,000 or 3,000. I would like to see this just a little higher, just to continue the good feeling.
What percentage would you like to see it at?
I'd like to double it. Can we do another?
One of the things we would recommend is if the board and your management team decides to push play on some of these changes, which we think are smart changes for you to consider because of the minimal impact on experience with substantial upside, is begin to implement some of the changes and then go back into the field again and see what the impact was on experience, right? So if we make some of these changes, we can certainly look to increase market size.
Do we do anything to capture riders' information, contact information?
Sure, at the call center when they call in, we have the ability to interact.
Just at the call center?
Right,
Is there
so
some way
they-
to try to capture the ones that come on the bus, give them something to fill out, or ask them to, the little cue thing with their phone, some kind of way?
Yeah, that's how we actually did the survey, was interaction with real customers, people who were using the bus.
Right, but is there some way for them to capture there so that we can communicate with them through social media, through email blast or something?
In regards to surveys or generally?
Both.
Yeah, so in regards to surveys, we would not advise that, to the point of the question that was asked earlier, because we don't want to get the voice of the over happy or over dissatisfied. We always want to be the one that reaches out to the customer. Exactly, but in regards to having interaction to service them, I think certainly so.
Curtis, you want to wrap it up? Any comments from your side? You've done a lot of legwork on this.
No,
You're deep into it.
Yeah, I appreciate Mark and his team. There's obviously a lot of things that we're trying to do moving forward, and this is one of them. This is a huge cost to the taxpayers, and it's nice to see that there's opportunity to save that money, and we look forward to it. As Mark, I discussed with you, we're doing kind of a fixed route redesign too, and we're trying to find efficiencies there, and so this is all a piece of the pie where we're just trying to be more efficient with what we do, but at the same time be able to service our customers in a high, excellent way. So I appreciate your time and appreciate you coming down here to Savannah and doing this presentation update. We look forward to the next steps, obviously, and moving forward, and then and letting the board know where that goes.
Well, the board should certainly feel good that you're addressing these topics of efficiency, and if nothing else, the opportunity that you harvest that $200,000 to be able to fund the service beyond the 3/4 of a mile. That's a substantial change, and I think the work that Michael, has certainly been doing on an interim basis, and certainly your CEO, $200,000 to be able to provide that service is not an insignificant victory. So a lot of positive steps are already being made, and there continues to be continued opportunity. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
for having me.
Interesting. So, next up is a presentation we're going to give about 2017, kind of a year in review. So I think that this will be interesting for you and Chester, because it will show you a little bit about where we've been.
So, before we get started, one of the things that I would like to do is, as you know, there's companies that provide an annual report, and I think, like companies that shows all their numbers, and I would like to start doing that for CAT, and I would like to put that out once we get all of our numbers, through the audit and everything's done, to be able to put out an annual report. And this past year, I would like to use this past year as that inaugural annual report, which we'll look to put out in a couple of months once we get all the numbers finalized and everything. But in the meantime, I kind of wanted to give a high-level presentation about the year in review. Obviously, more specifics and the story behind the numbers and all that, we'll put together it for the actual document. But I think it's important to recognize the fact that we've had a really good year. I mean, we assisted with the evacuation for the hurricane. We were able to renegotiate a lot of our contracts so that they're cost neutral and not subsidized by CAT. Revamped our entire preventive maintenance program. There's a lot of things that we've done, and just wanted to give the board kind of a highlight of the year in review with a more comprehensive report to follow that. I've asked our new COO, Mr. Michael Brown, to give this presentation. He's been here since April, so he wasn't here for the whole year, but I wanted him to have an opportunity to present this, and he's going to call on some staff to kind of give their piece of this presentation, As you know, I like to involve staff with everything, so, but Mike, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Curtis. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Like Curtis said, what we thought we'd do, we put together a brief PowerPoint presentation on the year in review. In the months that follow, we'll put together a more in-depth, comprehensive, detailed, we'll put something out on our fiscal year FY17 in review. So having said that, first thing I wanted to show you were our fixed route ridership numbers. As most of you know already, we've been down for the year. Our number is 8% for the year. What this slide shows is that comparison, this is passengers per hour, that compared to some other agencies, we're pretty much, we're a little higher, but in some and lower in others, but it's an industry trend. But having said that, we're not satisfied that our ridership is declining. What we've done is we've had our origin destination study. We have ridership trend analysis, and the goal is to better optimization and efficiency in our fixed route. We also working on a route redesign and route revision for our long-term sustainability. Next slide. On our paratransit, and if you have any questions, you can absolutely ask. It's a short presentation, so we'll field questions afterwards. So on our fixed route, as you heard Mark talk earlier, our paratransit, by the way, is up 9%, which is directly related to our decline in fixed route. Not number for number, obviously, but there is a certain correlation there to our paratransit number being up and our fixed route ridership being down. And over the last 4 years, as you can see, the paratransit ridership has increased by 24%. So that's a big number. We're working with TransPro, as you heard Mark say, to figure out ways to get eligible riders off paratransit on the fixed route, among other things. This next slide is about ferry operation, and I'll let Jimmy, who is in charge of marine operations, talk about this slide.
Good afternoon, everyone. So our decline this year had a lot to do with our City Hall landing. It was sustained a lot of damage over the years, and it was actually shut down in July of last year. So from July of last year to March of this year, we didn't have access to our City Hall landing, so we only had one landing operable for our ferry service, which means the groups that come in town for the Trade Center, for the shows, they opted more to take the ground transportation instead of walking all the way down to the Waver Drill landing, because we didn't have one up in town. So our ridership was down this year, mainly due to that, and also we had a hurricane in November, which a few groups didn't come to town that normally would have came due to the damage from the hurricane. So our dock opened back up at City Hall in the end of March, and every month since then, our ridership has been up over last year. So we're back on track with our dock this year. So.
Can I ask you, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Wasn't there something about the convention year schedule or something like that?
Yeah,
last year.
Our ridership is based on how many groups are booked at the Trade Center. A lot of our ridership comes from people who come into the town and go visit their show at the Trade Center. So we get a lot of local riders on the weekends, people that are just downtown want to ride the ferry, but a lot of our ridership is based on how good the Trade Center books shows to come in. So that goes along with it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the next slide here, we're going to talk about operations and safety. First, our transportation manager, Wendy Arnold, will talk about operations.
The Hurricane Matthew is really specifically, but the pre-evacuation, we transported approximately 13,000 passengers throughout the city to the Civic Center. That was through the CMA for special needs, and then the citizens throughout the county we brought here to the Civic Center. We evacuated approximately 800 passengers to Augusta. And our post-evacuation, which was moving people from the Trade Center back to the Civic Center, we moved about 4,500 passengers, and then we provided, and this was all free transportation, we provided transportation throughout the city for the remainder of the week, and the following week to a lot of shelters throughout the city. So there was a lot of activity for the hurricane.
Thank you, Linda. Erica is our Director of Safety and Environmental, Safety and Training Environmental. She's going to talk a little bit about safety.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I'm Erica Franklin, Director of Safety Training and Environmental Services for CAT. And obviously going to echo on the big one there with the evacuation in October. I would like to add that we were accident-free for that whole process, the evacuation and re-entry. So that was a huge deal for us. And quite obviously, CAT, you know, in the line of fire came through and did a lot of things that we weren't originally expected to do. So we were very happy to be involved in that very, very huge process. And for those of you, which was all staff involved, can say it was probably one of the most chaotic and stressful times I know that I've ever worked through. So very proud to have that experience. We're certainly not happy it happened, but at least we know we've got a solid plan and we could come through. Moving on, employee injury losses decreased by almost half from fiscal year 2016 to 2017. We were also able to knock a couple of very large dollar litigated work comp claims off of our books for the year, settled and off the books and done. So that's great for CAT, no longer costing us money on the bottom line. We received a best in class honor for a claim reporting lag from our insurer, and that goes through all the markets. And that, I guess that's kind of general. If to further explain that, most of our insurers specialize in writing transit systems. So RLI Transportation, they specialize in writing other transit systems. AmeriSure specializes in writing work comp policies or programs for similar agencies. So that's a huge honor for us to receive because that's a nationwide honor. Okay. And something else that was a big deal for us. In December 2016, we implemented an incentive-based safety awards program. So not only we do like an annual awards program for safety, we started doing a monthly points-based system. So look forward to bringing y'all some more information possibly about that in the future.
When you're talking about operations then, how many areas did requests for transportation did we have? The numbers of them and how many, the numbers, but who were they?
Are you
regarding the hurricane?
Are you referring to
the hurricane I'm talking about, so that we'll know, and we should be contacting those people if we don't wait till the last minute like what it was done. And you and I had a conversation on that. You told me what you were doing, Curtis, but this came at the last minute for some of those transportation costs, requirements.
Right. So the functional needs list that SEMA had was abbreviated compared to what actually was needed in the community. And so that's when we came through, because every vehicle we have is wheelchair accessible. So we were able to scramble and vet out the list and the new people that weren't on the list, and to be able to go get them and bring them in a chaotic environment at best, right before they had to get out of the county. And so moving forward, working with SEMA, making sure that that list is continuously updated. Obviously you're not going to have it perfect. People are just not going to be on there. But the point is to not have to go through that next time.
That was a huge discussion topic in the debriefs, or the hot wash, if you will, was that functional medical needs registry. That is maintained and controlled by the Department of Public Health. And I was right there in the middle of that process, so I can say it was kind of a mess, to be honest. There were people on the list that were deceased on the registry. So we sat down and in a few hours time had to decide who needed a paratransit vehicle or who needed an ambulance, because that whole list was pushed off on, it was here, go get these people, and we had to go through and kind of decipher who needed what services. So that is a huge topic, and they are working on that.
And I think it was muddled by, the intent originally was to take the needs assessment, the disabled out of the city at least a day or two in advance of the
24 hours.
Right,
Right.
and that didn't really happen.
Yeah.
It
General-
started and then
it
it was a general evacuation.
All the evacuation was issued at the same time.
And Curtis, of course, you came on board with the advice and you know, and what you put in place to help most of the transportation movement. But how about the school bus system? Because they're supposed to be in that, and why hasn't the school bus? Have they been contacted to find out? Because they should have. It's been talked about before about them having some responsibility in moving people when we have something like a hurricane or something else that's needed.
Yeah, so our job in a hurricane evacuation is to bring everybody to the evacuation assembly area.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Without
Well,
transportation.
What we found in this situation with Hurricane Matthew is that we also had to participate in taking them out of the county.
Right.
Which typically the school bus system does that. There was, I don't know exactly what happened with that, and SEMA was running the show, but they needed our help. Either there was not enough drivers or buses or something.
They don't have drivers.
So
They've got like some type of internal war going over there.
That was the issue.
With their bus system.
It's also a handicap access problem for buses.
That was the issue. They had to find some state
resources. A lot of their
resources.
vehicles were not wheelchair accessible, and so that's when I said, well, we can help. Every one of ours is, and then we quickly mobilized and were able to get everybody to the assembly area and out of the county.
Well, let's see what we could do with the school transportation system and Curtis to get with them, because I remember when we had a situation a number of years ago on evacuation, that what happened was the police, there was a number of police officers that drove school buses and taken people out of town. So that's another problem we had with the school bus system, because they were supposed to have a number of their employees that they were going to use. The first thing they were going to take care of their families first. You know, where you go to a shelter or something like that quickly, and then these bus systems come online to start transporting people.
Yeah, obviously I can't control what the school board does with their employees.
They're at war with their union. They're mechanics. They got a bunch of buses that are not functioning. They got a bunch of drivers that are like not happy. We probably should have a contingency for when they at war.
But we don't have anything to do with that.
We don't.
Y'all
All
need
that's
to get off
working
of
through
that.
SEMA.
You don't have nothing to do with that. Plus the fact that you need to recognize in the midst of when FEMA come in, FEMA take over and they tell everybody what to do. So I don't care what kind of bus you got. When FEMA said we need this bus to do this, that's what you're gonna do. My question to this whole thing is, we can work with the school board and have everything in place, but then FEMA come in and say this is what you're gonna do, and that's not what we plan on. All right, so that means that we have to coordinate better with them. So we need to get off of that. Here's what I want to find out. We had to come to their rescue. Is there monies in FEMA to be reimbursed for being in their rescue?
Yes.
Yes.
So now we need to be trying to get that money back in.
It's on the way.
Oh,
Already
okay.
done.
I know how long it takes now.
It does take a
All
long
right.
time.
We're down to-
Yeah,
we're down
I know how
to-
long it takes.
Yeah, we
So
have-
therefore, that's monies that you operated on that you're going to recoup.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the only thing that they do not reimburse is the loss of the revenue.
Right.
By having free service or no service.
Right. Same thing as with the county. That's why we have to come up with the other monies to do the same
Right,
thing.
but I want to
We
acknowledge.
don't need to be
through-
bothering with the school board.
Through this conversation, I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge that our union, our employees, our operators stepped up to the plate when they didn't know what to do and offered their services instead of just evacuating themselves, but helping assist the community evacuate, and really hands down to the fact that they did that, and we appreciate that.
Thanks for that.
Yes, very, I second that. I worked the Civic Center and the bus drivers, they were awesome. They were awesome.
They came back in and said, what else can we do?
Yep.
Yeah.
So they spent the night with us.
And we didn't just bring them back
We
to
weren't
Chatham
short
County and
of
drop them off, we
employees
also
or-
helped them try to get to other alternate shelters because their homes
Throughout
were
the
destroyed.
next 2 weeks.
It's just, all of this stuff we were not obligated to do, but our employees stepped up and did it.
Okay, let's do one more question and let's kind of pull back a certain.
Okay, well, just.
Or one more comment.
Two comments, but one for Erica. But first, just to echo Curtis's statements, in the middle of all of the confusion, there were several times when acting for the city, I had to call and ask for things that hadn't been scheduled, hadn't been planned. There was a lot of confusion about people coming back to the trade center, getting from the trade center, and Kat was very responsive throughout all of that. You know, responding without a plan, but doing what needed to be done, and that the city certainly appreciated all the effort there. Erica, I know this isn't Kat's responsibility, but that list, the evacuation list, I guess you said the county health department is responsible for that?
It's not it's a functional and medical needs registry. The Department of Public Health maintains that list, so they encourage residents who have a functional or medical need that do not have transportation to register on that list.
Well, I wonder if there's some public lack of awareness on that, because I got calls from people who had not evacuated, and then not having power, they had equipment that wasn't working that they needed, or they had oxygen issues or something like that. And I wonder if we could at least help with that. I mean, we have a database from our paratransit users, and maybe we could find a way to start helping inform more people about that list, because I had a couple of people call me really panicked, not knowing what to do, and there wasn't anything we could do.
Yeah, there's a certain point where we can't do anything, or the county can, or emergency responders stop responding at some point. But we did do that, Mr. Durance, in the past. Actually got together with the Department of Public Health and Seaman. They have a pamphlet that they provide for those individuals, and we had it mailed out to our paratransit clients. And during pre-season and awareness training we do, we inform all of our employees to spread that information to their clients and to their families as well. And we also put it out on social media for awareness. But any other suggestions you have that we can help, we would
Yeah,
certainly.
because I just, I was.
Because it was
kind of lost. I've got somebody with an emergency, and there's just nothing.
Well, and
we can do.
you are going to have those situations, people that don't listen, and they're going to be there and need help, and that's where we learn through this whole process to be flexible. We're going to get asked to do things that we don't feel comfortable with or weren't originally agreed to do, and we learn to be flexible.
We could even do probably a robocall if we know an evacuation is pending. We can do a robocall to our paratransit passengers and then notify them and give them specifics of what they can do in a robocall.
And not even a pending, emergency, just general
Yeah,
year, because you don't want to wait.
Anything for public awareness
Calls,
about this list.
Right, yes, sir. The EOC was inundated with calls about people saying, I want to get on the list. The list. So we had stacks and stacks of little notes. People just wanting to get on this list to get taken out of the county, and we had no idea what their functional medical need was, if they could ride public transit or what the situation was. So.
Interesting discussion, but we really need to move on.
We could go on for hours.
Well, this next slide is about marketing and outreach. Shalonda?
Hello, board. I'm Shalonda Roundtree, marketing manager. And Valerie Rager and I, we kind of work hand in hand on a lot of marketing outreach as they really kind of cross often. But some of the programs that we're highlighting today are obviously our 30th anniversary, which we are celebrating all year. We have 2 upcoming events that we'll be able to share with the board soon. And those events, for the purpose of those events, are just to kind of engage more with our stakeholders and our business partners. We have a lot going on, a lot of wins this year that we are very happy for. And this is kind of an opportunity just to make sure that the community, businesses, and stakeholders know who our board is, know who some of our executives are, and our staff members, so that we can build better relationships with them. We also, during this fiscal year, established a pilot program with Savannah Hilton Head Airport. We're very happy about that. They are now selling they're selling passes, so they're one-way and one-way and round-trip fares are available at the airport now. So that really kind of helps out, and I think that has certainly been a more convenience for some of the customers, instead of them not having a debit card, because we can only accept cash on the passes. They can actually purchase them directly from the airport. So that's been really good.
from the beginning of this program, they have purchased approximately 250 passes, which has been really good. So we hope to kind of continue expanding that and also kind of expand into some more retail outlets. And we also implemented a semester pass program, and that's just to really kind of target students. For some of the colleges and local universities here who are not interested in the UPass or have smaller universities or students who cannot really benefit, or private institutions, this provides another opportunity for them to be able to offer discounted prices for passes.
On the outreach side, we are currently involved with the Savannah Interagency Diversity Council, which is comprised of approximately 40 agencies, local and state agencies, nonprofits, that are concerned about the diversity in this area. We, the Savannah Interagency Diversity Council, has sponsored the Savannah Traffic Jam for the last 2 years. I currently serve as secretary of the council, and Kat has devoted a lot of hours via myself to that board. Mr. Dawson can attest, because he's also a member. We're doing great things. Savannah Traffic Jam, we're already in the process of planning for the 2018 Traffic Jam, which will be held in January 2018 at Savannah State University. The first one was held at Armstrong Atlantic Center, and the second one was held at Savannah State last year. Also during this year, I was invited to speak on a symposium for crisis in black education by the airport staff. It's been Hilton Head International Airport. I, along with 5 other people, were asked to, based on our experience with the community, to give our observations of the evolution of education, and particularly among black youth in Savannah. I found it really, really interesting, and I was very honored that they asked me to serve. Also, I want to note that on National Public Transportation Day, which we held in May of this year, we partnered with our education partner, East Broad Elementary School. It's not elementary, I'm sorry, K through 8 school now. And we had 8 students to visit our campus at 900 East Gwinnett Street. We had several of our directors and managers come and speak to those students. They spent half a day with us. We served them a little snacks, and they also took a tour of the facility at Gwinnett Street. They were really impressed, and I can tell you that they were so inquisitive. They asked so many questions, things that we didn't even expect them to ask us, but they were really interested and so grateful to know that those are opportunities in transportation were available to them. So we look forward to doing those things again. We also, Shalonda and I, have a meeting tomorrow with Dr. Stetliff of Savannah State University. We're going to speak with her about a possible passenger survey to be placed throughout the system, to see what the needs of our passengers are, what they want. We want them to tell us what they want from the system, so that we can tailor the system to their needs. So we have a meeting with her tomorrow, and we look forward to moving forward in making CAT a better system.
Thank you very much, Valerie and Shalonda. Next slide here. Talk about finances. This is Terry's slide.
Good morning. Some of the larger financial highlights for FY17 included our long-term debt payment of $1 million made on time and as scheduled, on top of covering critical operation costs. The second bullet point is big. We renegotiated our external service contracts with SSU, SAMI, and the City of Savannah to cover the full cost of service. Some of those renegotiations included service reductions paired with cost increase, in order to make sure that we're not running any agency service that we're not receiving a fee for that covers the cost. We completed our financial and single audit, which is a grant audit with a clean opinion, no question cost. We also adopted an FY18 budget that includes funding for the debt payment in the first time in 6 years of this long-term note, allows for a possibility of a 10 to 14 day operating contingency, and covers our depreciation costs. The FY17 financial results show CAT on budget with a possibility of a small surplus operating revenues to expenditures, and this is of course not the same as our cash flow critical need as far as cash in and cash out on a monthly basis.
Thank you, Terry. Steve?
I'll make it quick.
revamped system-wide preventive and maintenance program, which we hired 3 techs, dedicated a shift just for that. Assisted with development of vehicle replacement grant opportunities, which that would be the paratransit units, the new fixed route units that go in production May 2018, and we're still working on the electric buses. Performed a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis on purchase of alternative fuel in lieu of diesel vehicles, which CNG we looked at, LPG we looked at, and then we looked at electric, and we are pursuing with the electric buses because of the cost efficiency of the units. Purchase and install new equipment for outdated fare boxes, which we replaced the motherboards and trim boards in there, and the data that we are receiving for them are a lot better. It's clean, and we're still working on some more on the fare boxes. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. We're almost done here. Highlights and planning. I'm not going to go down and read every bullet point. You have copies in your packet there. In the interest of time, it just highlights some of the things that's going on in planning for FY17. The next slide. This one I will talk about briefly. What I want to highlight is a couple points, and that is you see the green here. Out of 7 grants, we were awarded 5 with 1 pending. And you see the total is $21.3 million and another almost $9 million to be determined. So we had a phenomenal year in FY17 as it relates to grants. And the last slide.
That's big.
That was big.
It's enough grant funding to almost replace our fixed route fleet and our para fleet and position us for lower maintenance costs going forward.
And by, is it 9 electric buses total?
Yes, if we get that last grant.
3 now, but if you don't get the grant, it'll be 3.
Yes.
And again, on this last slide on FY17 highlights, I'm not going to go through every bullet point because of time. But what it does highlight is some of the other accomplishments we've had during the year. And I would like to point out we strengthened, received a voting seat on the House Commission on Transit and Governance and Financing, which is huge. And we strengthened our relationship with GDOT, the FDA Region 4, and FDA headquarters. So those are 2, and not that one is more important or less, but the other are less important. I just wanted to highlight those 2 points. And that's it. Thank you very much.
It was an interesting year.
That it was.
A lot went on.
Wasn't
A lot went on. Before I lose my train of thought on this, the electric buses. We have Proterra coming in on August.
So on Monday, July 31st?
Yes.
Yes, Monday, July 31st, we are going to be showcasing an electric bus. Basically, we've been given a bus for a few days to showcase. Proterra is providing this bus. They're one of the companies that makes electric buses. Why Proterra? Well, we've partnered with Proterra on our federal grant application for electric buses. Sometimes the FTA allows you to pre-partner with a vendor versus doing an RFP. And so we pre-partnered with them, and so they're going to allow us to utilize an electric bus for a few days. But on Monday, July 31st at 1 o'clock, we're going to showcase it here at the Transit Center and invite the media and the public and certainly the board to please come and take a look at it. And then we're going to actually put it on some routes in the community and let our customers experience it as well. So anyway, Monday, July 31st, 1 o'clock.
Soon, Bill, soon. They're coming off as we speak.
Bernie Eichel's bus system.
Okay, so next up is the executive director report.
Isn't that advertising?
Yeah.
They pay for that, right?
For
they pay for that, right?
No, we just do it for free.
They pay for it.
Stay tuned.
I should give you a report on that.
1-800.
So, just to highlight a couple things on the director's report, we ended the year slightly below on our productivity, as we discussed. I mean, I don't know if the whole nation is feeling the ridership reduction, and we want to thank the board for, letting us do an origin destination study to allow us to analyze ridership trends so that we can redesign our system. We have historical routes. To be able to move the routes where the people are moving, that will really benefit us, the community, and be more efficient.
And does that have anything to do with people buying more cars, or with the scooters, or?
It's a combination of a lot of things. The cheaper gas prices. The auto industry has sold more cars in the last few years than they have in a long time.
Because I've noticed more of those little scooters.
Uber is taking more, a chunk of ridership in a variety of communities, and they don't really need to show where their data, because they're a private company. So there's a variety of things. It's interesting you brought that up. I'm a leadership APTA graduate, and APTA is the trade association for transit, and every year they have a class, a leadership class. This year, one of the teams in the class is doing a study, did a study about ridership and the reasons why, and it would be interesting to see when they present at the annual conference in Atlanta in October what their findings were. Every board is asking the same question, every agency is asking the same question, and there are a variety of reasons, it's not just one. But I'd like to see what they produce, because it'll be interesting to see from that perspective. Ridership, or let me just say transportation, is shifting to a customer-focused experience. And we need to be proactive in how we change with that. So it's all about what's best for customer experience, whether it's an Uber ride or whether it's combining a fixed route with an Uber ride, or a bike share or a bicycle ride to a bus to an Uber trip, or however they need to get their trip done. We need to be able to have options and work with different entities to provide those options. So at the end, we want the seamless connections for that customer, and if we're a part of that, that's good. Obviously, we can't take people everywhere they want to go, but to be a part of that trip is getting cars off the road is the goal. So with that, we also have some unit updates in here. If any board member has a specific question, I know, Mr. Chairman, you wanted to kind of move along.
Yeah, I think we're running
2
late
hours into
again. We still have an executive session. So in the back section, there's a lot of details on ridership, routes, route rides, passengers per route, cost per route, which is interesting to read.